The signal. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Dr. Sarah Chen barely noticed as her fingers flew across the holographic interface. 3 days without sleep, sustained only by caffeine and determination, yet she couldn't tear herself away from the data streaming across her screens. The Deep Space Communication Array had picked up something unprecedented, a signal that defied conventional analysis. Dr. Chen. The soft-spoken AI assistant materialized beside her workstation. You've been awake for 72 hours and 14 minutes. Protocol requires. Override medical protocol. Authorization Chen Alpha 9. Sarah muttered, eyes never leaving the cascade of numbers flowing past. This is different, AOIA. Look at these patterns. The A's holographic form tilted its head, processing. The mathematical sequences appear to be utilizing prime numbers, but there's an underlying variation I cannot categorize. Exactly. Sarah pushed back from her desk, running fingers through disheveled black hair. It's like someone's trying to speak through mathematics, but are speaking with an accent. We're not just getting random space noise. This is first contact. The lighting in her office shifted to a warm amber, AOIA's way of expressing concern. That's a significant claim, Doctor. The last 17 potential contact signals were all determined to be natural phenomena. Pull up the Jensen-Murray sequence. Sarah gestured at the main display, and a familiar mathematical pattern appeared. Now overlay our signal. The patterns merged, and even AOIA's artificial features registered surprise. The alien signal wasn't just similar to the sequence, it was responding to it, completing it in ways that couldn't be coincidental. Calculating probability of natural occurrence, AOIA announced. A moment later, 1 in 7 trillion. You're right, Doctor. This is intentional communication. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for her comm unit. Get me Director Wallace. Now. Within hours, her quiet research station transformed into a hive of activity. Military personnel swarmed the corridors, led by Commander James Hayes, a decorated veteran who looked about as comfortable with scientists as Sarah felt with soldiers. Walk me through it again, Doctor, Hayes demanded, his stern features illuminated by the holographic display, in terms someone without 3 feeties can understand. Sarah suppressed a sigh. They're using universal mathematical constants to establish communication. But there's more. She pulled up a new data set. The signal's getting stronger, and it's not just mathematics anymore. We're getting burst patterns that ARRA is beginning to decode into images. What kind of images? Hayes leaned forward, tension visible in his shoulders. Sarah projected the latest reconstruction. A spiral of stars with a point of light moving across them. We think it's a star map. And if we're interpreting it correctly, she overlaid the map with known stellar cartography. Something's coming toward Earth. Hayes' hand instinctively moved to his sidearm. Hostile. Unknown. But look at this. Sarah highlighted a pattern in the signal. It repeats every 4.3 seconds. In almost every known culture, repetition indicates urgency. Commander, I don't think this is a threat. She met his eyes. I think it's a distress call. The commander was silent for a long moment, studying the data. How long? Until what? Until whatever's sending this signal arrives. Sarah consulted her calculations. Based on the Doppler shift in the signal, 3 days, maybe 4. Hayes straightened, already reaching for his comm unit. I need to inform the Security Council. Dr. Chen, I want you and your team working around the clock to decode more of this message. If something's coming to Earth, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. As Hayes strode out, Sarah turned back to her screens. The signal pulsed steadily, each beat carrying messages from across the stars. But something in the pattern had changed, a new urgency that made her skin prickle. RIA, analyze emotional content. The AI processed for several seconds. Based on pattern variation and intensity, fear, Doctor. The signal carries markers consistent with extreme distress. Sarah stared at flowing data, imagining what kind of civilization might reach across the void to ask for help, and what they might be running from. Dr. Chen. Aria's voice was soft. Your heart rate is elevated. Shall I prepare a sedative? No, Sarah squared her shoulders. Prepare a new analysis matrix. We need to decode this message faster. Someone out there needs our help, and we have less than 4 days to figure out how to give it. As she worked through the night, the signal grew stronger. With each passing hour, Sarah became more certain of 2 things. Earth was about to make first contact, and whatever was coming brought with it both incredible opportunity and terrible danger. In the station's observation dome, she watched the stars, wondering which one concealed their mysterious visitors. The coffee in her hand had gone cold again, but she barely noticed. Somewhere out there, someone was asking for humanity's help, and Sarah Chen intended to answer. New pattern detected, AOIL announced suddenly. Doctor, I think they're sending us images of their ship. The holographic display filled with a ghostly outline of something massive, something that defied conventional engineering. As Sarah studied the impossible geometries, she felt a shiver of both excitement and fear. First contact was coming. The only question was whether Earth was ready for what it would bring. Commander Hayes watched the same images from his command center, his expression grim. He'd seen enough combat to know that refugees rarely traveled alone. Whatever was chasing them across the stars would likely follow them to Earth. Launch the satellites, he ordered. Full spectrum coverage. If anything larger than a meteor enters the solar system, I want to know about it. Sir, his aide protested, the civilian government hasn't authorized. By the time they finished debating, it could be too late. Hayes watched as the signal's intensity spiked again. Better to ask forgiveness than permission when the stakes are this high. As military installations worldwide went to high alert, Sarah continued her work, unaware of the wheels her discovery had set in motion. The signal's complexity grew, suggesting an intelligence far beyond human understanding. Yet there was something achingly familiar in its plea for help. We're all the same under the stars, she whispered to herself, a phrase her grandmother had often repeated. AOIA, begin composing a response. Let's let them know they're not alone out there. The signal pulsed in the darkness, growing stronger with each passing moment. Humanity's first steps into a larger universe were about to begin, for better or worse. And in her quiet lab, surrounded by stars and statistics, Sarah Chen prepared to help make history. She just hoped they were making the right kind. The object appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's deep space sensors showed nothing but the usual asteroid field traffic. The next, alarms blared across every monitoring station as something massive tore through the fabric of space itself. Energy signature off the charts. Sarah's hands flew across her console as data poured in. OOIA, give me visual. The main screen flickered to life, showing a vessel that seemed to defy physics. Its hull rippled like liquid metal, geometric patterns shifting and flowing across its surface. But what caught Sarah's attention were the scorch marks and gaping holes marring its otherworldly beauty. Multiple hull breaches detected, AOIA reported. The vessel appears to have sustained significant damage. Their propulsion system is failing. Commander Hayes burst into the control room, already barking orders into his comm unit. I want every weapon in the Pacific Fleet locked on that ship. Chen, tell me you've decoded more of their message. They're broadcasting on all frequencies now. Sarah adjusted her instruments, filtering through the cascade of signals. It's perfect English. A voice filled the command center, melodic yet filled with urgency. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Nixis of the Stellar Concordat. I seek sanctuary. They are coming. Please, help us. The transmission cut off abruptly as the alien vessel lurched, its hull struggling to maintain cohesion. They're going to break up in orbit, Sarah announced, calculations racing across her screen. Their structural integrity is failing. Hayes studied the tactical display, jaw clenched. If that ship breaks up over a population center, then we don't let it. Sarah's fingers danced across the interface. OOIA, broadcast on all frequencies. Ambassador Nixis, this is Dr. Sarah Chen. We're transmitting coordinates for a controlled descent. There's a designated landing zone in the Nevada desert. Doctor, Hayes protested, you don't have the authority. With respect, Commander, we don't have time for authority. Sarah met his gaze. That ship is coming down one way or another. We can either help them land safely or deal with the consequences of a crash. Hayes held a stare for a long moment before nodding sharply. Delta Squadron, escort that vessel to the coordinates. Shoot it down if it deviates. The next 30 minutes were chaos. The alien ship, despite its advanced technology, barely managed to maintain controlled flight. It leaked trails of crystalline energy that lit up the sky like aurora borealis, visible from 3 states away. Sarah watched through Area's drone feed as the massive vessel touched down in the desert, its liquid metal hull solidifying into jagged crystalline formations. Steam hissed from its wounds as it settled into the sand. Perimeter established, Hayes reported. No other contacts on long-range sensors. Dr. Chen, you're with me in the first contact team. Try not to get us all killed. The approach to the ship felt surreal. Sarah walked beside Hayes, surrounded by heavily armed soldiers, yet all she could focus on was the way the alien hull seemed to breathe in the desert heat. A seam appeared in the crystalline surface, spreading like a blooming flower. Light spilled out, and in it stood a figure that made Sarah's breath catch. Ambassador Nixis was humanoid, but that's where any resemblance to Earth life ended. Her skin had the same liquid metal quality as her ship, flowing with iridescent patterns that seemed to reflect emotions. Instead of hair, delicate crystalline formations framed a face that was both alien and hauntingly beautiful. But it was her eyes that captured Sarah's attention. They were filled with stars. Literal galaxies seemed to swirl in those depths, making it impossible to look away. Dr. Chen, Nixis spoke, her voice carrying the same melodic quality it had over the transmission. Your mathematics sang to us across the void. I had hoped. She swayed suddenly, the patterns on her skin flickering erratically. Sarah lurched forward instinctively, ignoring Hayes' warning shout. She caught the alien ambassador before she could fall, surprised by how light she felt, like holding solidified starlight. My ship, Nixis whispered, her star-filled eyes dimming. The containment fields, my people's last hope. Medical team, Sarah called out, but Hayes was already moving, professional caution warring with humanitarian instinct. The ship's breaking down at the molecular level, ARIA reported through Sarah's earpiece. Some kind of quantum cascade failure. Nixis grabbed Sarah's arm, her touch sending strange tingles through the scientist's nervous system. The database must be preserved. Lost survivors, culture, history, everything. How do we help? Sarah asked, aware of Hayes tensing beside her, his soldiers training weapons on the ship as its crystalline surface began to fracture. Join. Nixis pressed something into Sarah's hand, a crystal that pulsed with internal light. Accept the knowledge, please, before they find us. Before who finds us? Hayes demanded, but Sarah was transfixed by the crystal. It sang to her, a symphony of mathematics and memory that made her previous analysis of the signal seem childishly simple. Without conscious thought, her fingers closed around it. Light exploded behind her eyes. Knowledge flooded her mind, images of a civilization that had touched the stars, of worlds so beautiful they defied description, and of the darkness that had consumed them all. When her vision cleared, Sarah found herself on her knees in the desert sand. Hayes knelt beside her, concern breaking through his professional mask. Behind them, Nixis's ship was disintegrating, turning to diamond dust that sparkled in the desert air. They're called the Void Hunters, Sarah heard herself say, her voice strange to her own ears. They consume civilizations, transform them into something else. The Concordat was the last holdout, and now, she looked at Nixis, understanding dawning. You're the last one. The ambassador's skin rippled with patterns of grief. The last of my kind, yes, but not the last hope. She straightened, regal despite her obvious exhaustion. Your world stands at a crossroads, Dr. Chen. The hunters will follow my trail here. I can help you prepare, share what technology I can, but the choice must be yours. Hayes stepped forward, every inch the military commander. How long do we have? Days, perhaps weeks. Nix's eyes dimmed further. They are relentless. They will not stop until every trace of the Concordat is erased, including the knowledge I just shared with your scientist. Sarah stood, her mind still reeling from the download, but growing clearer by the moment. Then we better get started. Commander, we're going to need every resource Earth can spare. Hayes studied both women for a long moment before reaching a decision. I'll contact the Security Council. Doctor, get the ambassador to a secure facility. I want everything she knows about these hunters. As they led Nixis to the waiting vehicles, Sarah caught a glimpse of something moving through the star-filled depths of the ambassador's eyes, a shadow that sent chills down her spine. The Void Hunters were coming, and Earth's first contact was about to become a fight for survival. The hunt begins. Deep within the hastily repurposed military bunker, Sarah Chen watched in awe as Nixis manipulated streams of liquid light between her fingers. The alien technology defied everything she thought she knew about physics, yet the knowledge crystal throbbing in her mind helped her grasp concepts that should have taken decades to understand. Your species learns quickly, Nixis observed, her skin rippling with patterns that Sarah now recognized as approval. But we must move faster. The hunters. Warning klaxons cut through the air. Commander Hayes burst into the laboratory, his usually composed features tight with tension. Multiple contacts just appeared beyond Mars' orbit. Nothing we've ever seen before. The holographic display sprang to life, showing a swarm of objects that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with an organic fluidity that made Sarah's skin crawl. Scout vessels, Nixis confirmed, her star-filled eyes dimming. They tracked quantum resonance signatures. My ship's destruction will have drawn them. Hayes activated the command interface. How long before they reach Earth? At their current velocity, Sarah consulted the data streaming through her mind, courtesy of the crystal's download. 48 hours, maybe yes if they accelerate. We're not ready. Hayes slammed his fist against the console. Our most advanced weapon systems are toys compared to what you've shown us. We need more time. Nixis moved to the display, her liquid metal skin reflecting the harsh emergency lighting. Perhaps there is a way. The knowledge I shared with Dr. Chen contains blueprints for defensive systems. If we combine them with your planet's existing technology, the satellite network, Sarah interrupted, the idea crystallizing in her mind. Commander, what if we repurpose the global communication grid? With Nixis's quantum resonance technology, we could create a planetary defense shield. Hayes studied the tactical display. How long to implement? A day to modify the satellites, maybe less with international cooperation. Sarah turned to Nixis. But we'll need more crystals like the one you gave me. The calculations are too complex for traditional computers. The ambassador's skin darkened with concern. Creating more knowledge crystals requires significant energy, and each one forges a permanent connection with its user. The neural load could be dangerous for humans. We don't have a choice. Hayes activated his global command channel. This is Commander Hayes. As of now, we are at DF-Huan 2. All military personnel are to report to their emergency stations. This is not a drill. Across the planet, humanity began to mobilize. Decades of Cold War preparation transformed into a unified response to an alien threat. Sarah watched through security feeds as military bases worldwide sprang into action, civilian technologies were requisitioned, and the first tentative steps of a global defense force took shape. In the laboratory, Nixis worked tirelessly to create more knowledge crystals. Each one contained a fraction of her civilization's legacy, carefully tailored to interface with human consciousness. Sarah helped screen volunteers, watching as soldiers and scientists alike stepped forward to accept the neural burden of alien knowledge. The integration is faster than expected, Nixis noted as another volunteer successfully bonded with a crystal. Your species has an unusual adaptability. We've had plenty of practice adapting to survive, Hayes commented, reviewing casualty projections on his tablet. Speaking of survival, those scout ships aren't the real threat, are they? Nixis's skin rippled with dark patterns. No, they are merely the harbingers. Behind them comes the Harvester, a vessel larger than your cities, capable of restructuring matter itself. The scouts will test your defenses, analyze your responses. The Harvester will consume everything they learn. Sarah shivered, remembering fragments of memories from her crystal worlds transformed into twisted geometric shapes, entire civilizations reduced to components in some vast, incomprehensible machine. The satellite modifications are at 60%, she reported, pushing aside the horrific images. But we're detecting unusual energy fluctuations in the crystals. They're evolving somehow. As designed, Nixis confirmed. The crystals learn, adapt. They will attune themselves to your species' thought patterns, become more efficient with use. Hayes frowned. You didn't mention that part before. Would you have accepted them if I had? Nixis met his gaze, her star-filled eyes unwavering. Your people needed immediate access to advanced technology. The crystals provided that. Their evolutionary aspects ensure you will not become dependent on them. You will learn, grow, make the knowledge truly your own. A junior officer burst into the lab. Commander, the scout ships, they're accelerating. The tactical display updated, showing the dark swarm of vessels now moving at impossible speeds. Sarah's crystal pulsed with new calculations. Time to Earth contact revised, she announced. 36 hours, maybe less. Hayes straightened, decision made. Dr. Chen, you have 12 hours to complete the satellite modifications. Ambassador, we need every crystal you can safely produce. I want defensive systems online before those scouts enter weapons range. As they rushed to implement the plans, Sarah caught Nixis studying her with an unreadable expression. What is it? Your Commander Hayes, the ambassador said softly. He reminds me of our last defense coordinator. Practical, decisive, she also chose to fight rather than submit. Nixis's skin rippled with what Sarah now recognized as grief. I never saw her again after the Harvester arrived. Sarah wanted to offer comfort, but was interrupted by new alarms. The scout ships had changed formation, moving into an attack pattern that her crystal recognized all too well. They're not just testing us, she realized, horror dawning. They're hurting us. Hayes looked up sharply. Explain. Each evasive maneuver, each defensive preparation, we're doing exactly what they expect. They're forcing us to deploy our resources in predictable patterns. Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface. We need to do something unexpected, or the Harvester will know exactly where to strike. Then we changed the game. Hayes' eyes gleamed with sudden inspiration. Doctor, how quickly can you modify those crystals to do something they were never designed for? As Sarah grasped his intention, she felt a smile spread across her face. Sometimes the best defense was an offense no one could predict, not even an alien force that had consumed civilizations far more advanced than Earth's. They had 36 hours to rewrite the rules of engagement. The hunt was about to take an unexpected turn. Eclipse Protocol. The knowledge crystal burned against Sarah's temple as she worked, its glow visible through her skin. Around her, the command center had transformed into something out of a fever dream. holographic displays showing impossible physics, military personnel with their own crystals manipulating alien code, and at the center of it all, Nixis, her liquid metal form rippling with increasing distress. "The scout ships are broadcasting," the ambassador announced, her star-filled eyes fixed on something beyond human perception. "They're calling the Harvester." Hayes studied the tactical display, where the dark swarm of scout ships had arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern around Earth's orbit. "How many crystals are combat-ready?" 17, Sarah reported, fighting back a wave of dizziness. The neural load was taking its toll on all the crystal bearers. "But, Commander, I don't think you understand what we've created here." She gestured to the modified satellite network, now humming with hybrid human-alien technology. "This isn't just a defensive shield anymore. When the crystals interfaced with our quantum computers, they started evolving, growing. They're learning to manipulate solar radiation in ways even Nixis people never attempted." The ambassador moved closer, her skin patterns shifting to show intense interest. "Show me." Sarah brought up the test results. "We're calling it the Eclipse Protocol. Instead of trying to block the Hunter's energy weapons, we're going to redirect them. The entire satellite network will act as a solar lens, focusing the sun's power along with their own attacks back at them." "Impossible," Nixis whispered, but her tone held wonder rather than doubt. "The energy requirements alone would exceed anything your civilization ever attempted," Hayes finished. "That's why it might work. You said the Hunters analyze and adapt to known technologies. But this," he smiled grimly, "this is human improvisation combined with your quantum science. They won't see it coming." New alarms blared. On the main display, a massive distortion appeared at the edge of the solar system, a tear in space-time itself. "The Harvester," Nixis breathed, her form trembling. "It's earlier than expected. They must have sensed what we're attempting." Sarah's crystal pulsed with warning calculations. The vessel emerging from the spatial rift defied description, a geometric nightmare that seemed to fold through dimensions that shouldn't exist. It was larger than Earth's moon, its surface a constantly shifting maze of dark metal and impossible angles. "All crystal bearers to your stations," Hayes commanded. "Civilian populations are in their shelters. Admiral Williams has the Pacific Fleet standing by with the modified warheads. Dr. Chen, is the Eclipse Protocol ready?" Sarah's fingers danced across her console, making final adjustments. "Satellite network is at 97% alignment. But sir, the simulations show, there's a high probability the crystal bearers won't survive the energy feedback." Hayes met her gaze steadily. "You volunteered for this, Doctor. We all did." Actually, Sarah managed a tight smile. "I don't recall anyone volunteering me. You just didn't stop me when I took the crystal." A ghost of a smile crossed the commander's face. Plausible deniability. The Harvester's presence grew stronger. Sarah could feel it through her crystal, an ancient, hungry intelligence that had consumed countless civilizations. Scout ships began their attack runs, their energy weapons leaving trails of darkness against Earth's atmosphere. "They're testing the defenses," Nixis reported, her voice tight. "Looking for patterns, weaknesses. Standard protocol before the Harvester." She broke off, patterns of pain crossing her liquid metal skin. "Before it what?" Hayes demanded. "Before it begins the consumption process. The transformation of your world's matter into... The ambassador's star-filled eyes dimmed with remembered horror. "That's not going to happen." Sarah's voice was firm as she initiated the final sequence. "Crystal bearers, prepare for neural sync. Eclipse protocol activating in 5 minutes." Around the command center, the 17 humans bearing knowledge crystals took their positions. Each crystal pulsed in harmony, creating a network of light that interfaced with the satellite system. 4 minutes, Sarah announced, fighting back another wave of dizziness. "Commander, if this doesn't work, it'll work." Hayes' confidence never wavered, because it has to. The Harvester's presence loomed larger. Through her crystal, Sarah could feel its ancient awareness turning toward Earth, analyzing, calculating. Scout ships accelerated their attacks, probing for weaknesses with increasing intensity. 3 minutes. Ambassador Nixis, we need you to. Sarah turned to find the alien gone. Where? She's interfacing directly with the satellite network, ARIA reported. Her quantum signature is evolving, adapting to match the Eclipse protocol's frequency. 2 minutes. Sarah's vision blurred as the neural load increased. Around her, other crystal bearers swayed on their feet, held up only by determination and the emergency medical staff standing by. Commander, the harvester is accelerating. It's detected something about our preparations that. That's exactly what we want, Hayes interrupted. Let them think they've figured us out. Let them commit to the attack. The massive alien vessel moved with impossible grace for its size, its geometric surface reconfiguring as it prepared to fire its main weapon. Scout ships fell into attack formation, their energy weapons charging for a synchronized strike. 1 minute. Sarah could barely speak now. The crystal's glow had spread down her face, tracing patterns of light beneath her skin. Similar patterns marked every crystal bearer in the room. Sir, energy readings are off the scale. The harvester is. Stay focused, Doctor. Hayes' voice seemed to come from very far away. 30 seconds. The Void Hunters struck as one, a coordinated blast of dark energy that should have torn through Earth's atmosphere like paper. Instead, it met the satellite network's quantum field and changed. Eclipse protocol engaging, Sarah whispered, and pressed a final command. The world turned to light. Every satellite in Earth's orbit became a focal point, gathering both solar radiation and the hunter's own energy. The network lit up like a constellation of new stars, forming a geometric pattern that mirrored the harvester's impossible shape. Through her crystal, Sarah felt Nixis's consciousness merge with the network, her ancient knowledge combining with human determination. The ambassador's final gift to her people's destroyers was a weapon they never could have anticipated, one born from the very species they had come to consume. The Eclipse protocol didn't just reflect the hunter's attack. It amplified it, transformed it, turned their own dimensional manipulation against them. The harvester's surface began to fold in on itself, its geometric patterns collapsing into configurations that violated its own design. Scout ships crumpled like paper dolls in a fire, their dark energy weapons becoming their undoing. The void they had used to consume so many worlds began to consume them instead. In the command center, crystal bearers screamed as neural feedback tore through their minds. Sarah felt her consciousness fragmenting, stretched between human awareness and something vast and ancient and impossibly new. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Hayes catching her as she fell, and above them, through the command center's armored skylight, the sight of Earth's atmosphere blazing with transformed energy as humanity's impossible gambit paid off. The Void Hunters had come to consume another civilization. Instead, they found something they had never encountered in all their eons of existence, a species willing to risk everything to rewrite the rules of reality itself. The hunt was over. The Eclipse protocol had worked. But as Sarah's mind faded into unconsciousness, she couldn't help wondering what they had actually become in order to achieve victory. The final stand. Sarah Chen awoke to a world transformed. The medical bay's lights pulsed in sync with her heartbeat, and she could feel the quantum resonance of every electronic device within a 100-meter radius. The knowledge crystal had fused with her temple, its crystalline structure now spreading in delicate patterns beneath her skin. "Welcome back, Doctor." Hayes sat beside her bed, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "How much do you remember?" "The Eclipse protocol worked," Sarah whispered, her voice rough. "The harvester was destroyed, but something else happened, didn't it?" Hayes helped her sit up, and she saw her reflection in the window. Patterns of light coursed through her veins, and her eyes now held hints of the same stellar depths as Nixis. "We won," Hayes confirmed, But the victory came with complications. The other crystal bearers. He gestured to the adjoining medical bay, where 16 other beds held figures similarly transformed. We're all changing. Nixis? Sarah asked, already suspecting the answer. Gone. She merged completely with the satellite network during the final phase. But before she dispersed, she left us a message. Hayes activated a holographic display, and the ambassador's voice filled the room. My friends, Nixis's melodic tones carried both joy and sorrow. What you have accomplished is unprecedented. The Void Hunters are destroyed, but their essence, their power, could not be simply eliminated. It had to go somewhere. The Eclipse Protocol didn't just reflect their energy, it transformed it, and in doing so, transformed you. Sarah touched the crystal at her temple, understanding dawning. We're becoming like her. The crystal bearers are evolving. Nixis recording continued. My people spent millennia achieving what you have managed in days. The fusion of human adaptability with quantum technology has created something entirely new. You are now the guardians of more than just Earth. You are the inheritors of both the Concordat's legacy and the Hunter's power. Use it wisely. The message ended, leaving Sarah and Hayes in silence, broken only by the hum of medical equipment, a hum she could now feel as much as hear. The UN Security Council is in emergency session, Hayes said finally. The public knows we won, but footage of the battle has leaked. People have seen what the crystal bearers can do now. Some are calling us heroes. Others are afraid, Sarah finished. She stood shakily, watching patterns of light dance beneath her skin. They should be. We don't even know what we're capable of yet. New alarms blared, not the harsh warning of attack, but something more subtle that Sarah could feel through her enhanced senses. Something's wrong with the satellite network. Hayes was already moving. Command center, now. The facility had changed during Sarah's recovery. Quantum terminals interfaced directly with crystal bearer technicians, their thoughts controlling complex systems with a gesture. The main display showed Earth's orbital ring, where the modified satellites now pulsed with transformed energy. The network is evolving, one of the crystal bearers reported, his eyes glowing with the same stellar light as Sarah's. It's not just reflecting energy anymore, it's generating it, creating new configurations of matter and space. Sarah interfaced with the nearest terminal, her consciousness expanding through the system. What she saw made her breath catch. It's not just the network. The Hunter's technology, combined with Nixis's knowledge and our adaptations, we're changing the fundamental structure of local space-time. In English, Doctor, Hayes demanded. We're creating something, Sarah whispered. Something that could either protect Earth forever or, she met Hayes' gaze, or become exactly what the Hunters were, a force that reshapes reality itself. The commander studied the displays, his military training warring with the new reality they faced. Can we stop it? Should we? Another crystal bearer asked. We have power beyond anything humanity has ever wielded. We could reshape the solar system, explore dimensions the Hunters only dreamed of. And become the very thing we destroyed, Sarah countered. Commander, I need authorization for an emergency protocol. One last use of our combined power. Hayes read the plan forming in her mind through her crystal's interface. His eyes widened. You want to lock it all away. The power, the technology, even our own transformations. Not away, Sarah corrected. Into balance. We use the network one last time, not to destroy or reshape, but to create barriers. Limits. A framework that allows humanity to grow into this power naturally, over generations, instead of being transformed overnight. The others won't agree, Hayes warned, glancing at the crystal bearers around them, many of whom were already showing signs of resistance to the idea. Then we make them understand. Sarah straightened, feeling power course through her transformed body. We didn't beat the Hunters by becoming them. We won because we remained human enough to think differently, to choose a harder path. The satellite network pulsed with increasing energy as the crystal bearers divided, some embracing their transformation, others fighting to maintain their humanity. Sarah felt the power building, felt the temptation to let it consume her completely. Instead, she began the final sequence. Eclipse Protocol, Phase 2, she announced. Commander Hayes, I need your authorization. Hayes looked at the transformed humans around him, at the world they had saved and could now reshape at will. Then he met Sarah's eyes, still human despite the stars swirling in their depths, and made his choice. Authorization granted, Dr. Chen. Save us one more time. The command center erupted into chaos as crystal bearers chose sides. The satellite network blazed with competing energies, and above it all, in the quantum realm where humanity's future hung in the balance, Sarah Chen prepared to make humanity's hardest choice yet, trading godlike power for the chance to earn it properly. The final stand wasn't against the hunters after all, it was against their own potential for unlimited power. And this time, victory would be measured not in destruction, but in restraint. New Dawn. 6 months after the activation of Eclipse Protocol, Phase 2, Sarah Chen stood at the newly constructed Quantum Observatory, watching Earth's transformed satellite network trace patterns of light across the night sky. The crystal in her temple pulsed softly, its power now carefully contained within the limits they had created. The latest reports are in, Commander Hayes approached, his own crystal glowing dimly beneath his skin. The framework is holding. Humanity's advancement is proceeding at a sustainable rate. Sarah nodded, sensing the quantum barriers they had established, invisible walls that allowed humanity to grow into its newfound power gradually, preventing any single group from accessing too much too quickly. And the dissenters, she asked, though her enhanced senses had already detected the answer in Hayes's subtle energy patterns. Most have accepted the necessity of restraint, he replied, joining her at the observation window. Those who didn't, the barriers contain them too. No one person can accumulate enough power to break the framework. Not even you. Good. Sarah watched a group of students enter the observatory's learning center below, young minds eager to understand the new physics that the Eclipse Protocol had introduced to human science. That was the point after all. The knowledge crystal had changed them all, but not in the way many had feared. Instead of becoming gods, they had become teachers, guardians of a transition that would take generations to complete. Director Chen. A young researcher approached, tablet in hand. We've detected something unusual in the Kuiper belt, a quantum signature unlike anything we've catalogued. Sarah interfaced briefly with the observatory's sensors. The signature was familiar, an echo of Nyx's people, but transformed into something new. Another survivor? No. Hayes studied the data with his military precision. Look at the pattern. It's not Concordat technology. It's something else. Something that noticed what we did to the hunters. Sarah felt it then, distant consciousness observing Earth with intense interest. Not hostile, but not entirely peaceful either. Curious, evaluating. We're not ready, one of the nearby crystal bearers warned. The framework is still stabilizing. If we face another advanced species now, we're more ready than you think. Sarah turned to Hayes. Commander, remember what Nyx has said about human adaptability? Hayes smiled slightly. That it was our greatest strength, even more than the knowledge she gave us. Exactly. Sarah activated the observatory's main display, showing Earth's transformed defense network. We didn't just lock away power, we created a system that learns, that grows with us. The framework doesn't just restrict, it teaches. The young researcher's eyes widened. The quantum barriers are training wheels. Training wheels that become more complex as we learn to handle them, Hayes confirmed. Dr. Chen's design ensures we can't access new capabilities until we truly understand the old ones. Sarah felt the distant observer's interest sharpen. They had noticed the elegance of the solution, not a simple lock on power, but a structured path toward responsible advancement. Send a message, she decided. Let them know we're aware of them, and that while we welcome peaceful contact, We'll advance at our own pace, Hayes finished. On our own terms. The observatory hummed with activity as the message was prepared. Below, more students filed into the learning center, their young minds already adapting to concepts that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Sarah touched her crystal, feeling its controlled power. The transformation hadn't turned them into gods or monsters. Instead, it had given humanity something far more valuable, a chance to grow into their potential naturally, with wisdom tempering power. New contact, the sensors reported. They're responding to our message. Sarah shared a look with Hayes before turning to face humanity's next challenge. Whatever came next, they would face it as they had faced the hunters, not with overwhelming power, but with innovation, adaptability, and the wisdom to know their own limits. In the sky above, the satellite network continued its dance, its quantum barriers ensuring that humanity's reach would never exceed its grasp, not forever, but for long enough to learn how to handle the power they had inherited. Nyx's final gift hadn't been the knowledge crystals or even the technology to defeat the hunters. It had been the chance to do what her people never had, to grow into their power gradually, wisely, and most importantly, together. Ready for first contact? Hayes asked, his crystal pulsing in harmony with the defense network. Sarah smiled, feeling Earth's carefully managed quantum field respond to her thoughts. No, but we will be by the time they get here. That's the whole point. The distant observer signal grew stronger, carrying with it the promise of new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities for humanity to prove that their victory over the hunters hadn't been a fluke. They had chosen to limit their power not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And in doing so, they had shown the watching universe something it had never seen before, a species willing to take the long road to advancement, even when a shorter path was available. As Sarah prepared to greet humanity's next visitors, she felt the rightness of their choice in every controlled pulse of her crystal. They had not only survived first contact, they had learned from it. And in the end, that was humanity's greatest victory of all.